We're SEC is
SEC
there.
network is there. Blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, now we're going to
Now we're going to
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma and Oklahoma.
And the ironic part
is Oklahoma has been such
an iconic
football program
since Bud Wilkinson,
back before ESPN.
Bud Wilkinson
won 47 straight games.
Legendary
seasons and coaches and Heisman Trophy winners and so many national championships, so much success. It's almost like
Texas is coming.
Texas is coming. And they're bringing Oklahoma along.
You guys feel that way?
You guys feel that way?
I don't get it. I don't understand it because, again, I've been coached. I coached at OU from when Bob Stoops got the job in December 98. I got hired in December 98, and I coached all the way through 22. So, we used to battle this in recruiting. We dominated that conference. We dominated that part of the country. OU did. And Texas basically has struggled a bunch. Now, I know they had a great year last year, but this is, they lost 11 players to the NFL draft. Steve Sarkisian made and I'm a fan of him. Again, the running back coach is our choice. I coached at OU. He's from Lovejoy High School in Lovejoy, Georgia, played at OU. Jeff Banks, the special teams coordinator, I know. But everybody just is putting Tennessee out there, and they're kind of dropping OU. And I just struggle with that just because of the history and the success in the last, 20 years, what OU has done on the field compared to what Texas has done on the field. So, but that's how it is in this part of the country. I don't understand it, but that's kind of the field.
I was dying to ask someone who is in the fight like you guys are, where you go, wait a minute,
kicking their
tail forever. They're one of the most underachieving programs in America. They have one really good year right before they move to the SEC, and all of a sudden, it's like Texas has had Oklahoma success. That drive you guys nuts. So I wanted to get your perspective. Absolutely.
I don't get it. I really, really don't. So I struggle with it, but I'm in the minority. I'm in the minority when it comes to the media. I'm in the minority when it comes to anybody who kind of has anything to do with college football and seems to be in the know about it. That everybody's giving Texas the hall pass that they're going to be one of the top 3 teams in this conference, and they're going to be in there right now. Now the media, you talk to those guys, they feel like there's something special coming. They feel like Steve Sarkisian has really learned over the years because he's been on both sides of it. He's been in some good sides and some bad sides. They believe that the players have really had a taste for what it's like to have this success last year. So, again, you've got to continue to keep stacking, in my opinion.
Yep.
You just can't say, okay, this team has one good year, that they're here. Texas has history. They have tradition. But to say that they're going to be that much better than Oklahoma moving in the SEC, I just don't buy that.
Cale Gundy hanging out with us, quarterback at Oklahoma, former coach at Oklahoma, now doing some sports talk. Central for the Sports Animal in Oklahoma City here on the halftime show in the game.
Cale, let's look at
Oklahoma this year. It's going to year 3 of Brent Venables. First year, obviously underwhelming. No one's happy about that. Norman, second year though, 10-win season. I pushed those bowl games aside, man. It's whatever now. It's like whoever's left in the locker room, go play, right? But a 10-win season in Venables' second year. Going into year 3, you've had a lot of successful head coaches in Norman, Oklahoma. Iconic guys. What's your gut on Brent Venables as you go into year 3?
Well, the good thing about Brent is Brent has been in it. Brent's been in, the top of the college football chain when it comes to winning and championships coming from Clemson. So he's been in the battle the last 10 years, and he knows what you have to have. He knows the type of players that you have to have. He knows the size, the length, the speed on the offensive line, defensive line on the back end that you have to have, and that was something that OU was missing in some areas on the defense, and they're trying to change that because you've got to give yourself a chance. You don't want to go in a fight and not even have a chance. You got to give yourself a chance. You got to have the right type of player. So he is surrounded. They are heading in that direction. My concern this year moving forward is, again, I'm a big Jackson Arnold fan. I think he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country in the years to come. He has all the tools, but he is going to be a young guy. The offensive line line is going to be playing 5 new offensive linemen. I don't like that. Not moving in the SEC, or defensively moving in the SEC. That's not what you want. That's what you have to have in order to play week in and week out in the SEC, and that's probably their weakness. They got strength in the wide receivers. DeMarco Murray's got great running backs. The defense is probably going to have to carry him a little bit. Is the defensive line going to be big enough to play every Saturday in the SEC?
Joe Gundy with us, former Oklahoma quarterback and former member of the coaching staff now at the Sports Animal in Oklahoma City. Doing the Midday Show, and Cale, very kind to come over here and hang out with us for a few minutes. Last thing for you, I know you got to actually go to work.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
No, I enjoy this.
This is year 3.
This is year 3 of this, and I want to ask: is there any remnant of it? Because again, we get the view from Columbia, South Carolina.
When Lincoln Riley
took off,
something that was totally unexpected. I guess. I mean, maybe a little bit expected when it was coming up. There was a bubble of LSU, not Southern Cal. And he took a bunch of people with him, not just coaches, support staff and everything. Has it taken a long time to get everything back in place? Because not just the coach leaving, but he took so much with him, but I took the quarterback too, man. So is it all gone and everything good now, or is we're still trying to get ourselves back together?
No, I hate it. I'm a big Lincoln Riley guy. I coached with him. I were great friends. We still have a great relationship. The very best. I know things that went on stirred or caused some reasons why he ended up leaving that people don't know. So he is taking all the blame of everything. It's all been. Sorry, so glad he's out of here. He loses every game in Southern California, and I hate that, but they passed that. But he has Justin Will, President Harris, done a tremendous job. They've developed a huge staff, surrounded themselves with great people, and they all put that behind.
NIL space.
from which
Obviously, it's a thing. It's a thing. If we change whatever we're going to do,
Dallas Street School
collectives are going to be a thing.
in some way, shape, or form. How's Oklahoma set with that stuff?
I believe they're in a better place now. There was a lot of talk that they wanted but I know Brent, and I know the type of person he is, and so I know he has gone to administration and said, "Hey, this is something that we have to do." I have been in talks with the administration about the NIL world, and a number they threw at us that says that we need to have. This was back in about February or March, and said, "Hey, this is the number that we need. Between this and this, millions of dollars is what we need." And we met with them 3 months later, and that number jumped up to $4 to $6 million already. That fast. So I'm happy that I'm not in that work. We won't have to deal with that. And I think that they're in a good place. Here's the deal: if you're not in a good place, you don't have a chance. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. I don't care how good everything else is. So those are two things you got to have. You got to have a quarterback. You got to have
Hey, brother, you thought you would say that out loud. You got to have a quarterback and some damn money.
Now I was with Coach Switzer in a group called Coaches Cabana, and now he says, he tells everybody, it's legal. Now it's legal. Hell, I was doing it 5 years ago, but now it's legal.
Bill Gundy, appreciate your time.
For the coaching staff, the Twitters now, the Sports Channel, Oklahoma City.
Seriously, thanks for jumping in. I'm going to let you get back to it. Appreciate your time, Cale. Thanks a lot.
Cal, thanks a lot.
All right, it's a halftime show. Out here. We're going to have Connor pop in with us from the state of Courier. We're going to get David's thoughts from South Carolina yesterday with Shane and the players and just vibe. We're going to talk to minutes. We want you to know that 2024 SEC Media Days from Dallas is sponsored by the Pool Law Firm. We're covering millions from their clients for over 30 years. Whether it's a slip or a fall, car accident, any other issue, don't scream. Call the key. 800-all-sevens. Also, Lexington, board certified positions, combining the highest quality care to get the best results, getting results. Halftime show. Terry Ford has the thousands. Thank you right here on the game. Thank you, sir.
Can I give you my number? Absolutely. And you text me
your information, your name, your station, and I'll send mine back, and then we can communicate the week of the game, and I can come on, or you can.
Absolutely. What's your number?
405 496 8005.
Okay, 405-496-8005.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I'm going to send you a text right now. And we'll get together, definitely do something for that week. Thank you, man. Thanks, Caleb. Appreciate it. He was great. He was good. He was good. Huh? Really?
It's up to here. Usually the turtleneck involves being more up to like the chin, close to her head. But dude, that thing's a good halfway up. Here's straight. But like the turtleneck in this weather.
Yeah, really. Come on, brother. Yeah, he was good. He was good. I gotta mute the mic.
Also, we're brought to you by Ziegler Card Sales, providing top-notch golf cart sales and service for over 20 years. 843-621-5016. 2024 SEC Media Days, hanging out here at the Omni in Dallas. And, man, what a surprise we run into David Cloninger from the Post and Courier here. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, it's crazy that we would both be here. You know,
Weird.
but props to us both and to the rest of us, because we're only one of the few media contingents that came here and stayed for the whole time. So it's good to see. You know?
I always like to see and you see it now more than, and you know this more than ever, the empty table with just something sitting there saying who should be there.
There you go. But it's one of those where we've always done it. We've always stayed the whole time. Now, again, good time, good event, good pals, what have you. But I'm still just curious, why are we in Dallas for this? that known hub of Southeastern Conference football?
Okay, we saw you yesterday. First thing, it's one of the first things you said to me. Man, you can't get over it, can you? It's just driving you insane.
I mean, there's no reason I should have had to get on a plane to come to this event. None at all. So I'm hoping to run into Greg Sankey and get some definite explanation for that, at some event tonight.
I think you got to pull Greg over and go, man, what's up?
Yeah, it's like,
am
I not owed better than this? Been on this beat for 20 some odd years, and it's always been a drive. Even Nashville was a drive.
Right.
I mean, longer, but that's all right. I can deal with a long drive. I got a lot of music, But anyway, we're here. It's, and South Carolina obviously went yesterday, so now the rest of the week's like, okay, well, let's see if anything interesting pops up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, one of the Georgia kids just on the podium a few minutes ago said, yeah, they asked him who's the most athletic player in the SEC, and he answered, that would be Nick Harbor. So, hey,
there we go.
Nick Harbor's got at least one supporter in the great state of Georgia.
Absolutely. And what that does is saying, well, got the most athletic guy in the SEC in South Carolina. Let's go, Nick. Let's roll.
What are you going to do with him?
What are you going to do? David Cloninger hanging out with us from the Post and Courier here on the halftime show on the game from 2024 SEC Media Days. Look, and you know this. This thing is been so homogenized and pre-programmed, and it feels like everybody's got a script and everybody knows don't do anything goofy or stupid or don't say anything. Like, God love poor Tonka Hemingway last year. He just said something so innocuous, and it became something when it was one of the biggest nothings you're ever going to get.
They turned nothing into something, which to me, I said, does Kirby Smart really have to inspire his back-to-back national champions?
I was the same
South
way.
Carolina?
I was the same way. I was like, really? This is what we're doing? I thought they were pretty ridiculous coming in. When they won 2 years ago, nobody believed in us. You're preseason number one. Everybody believed in you.
You got to start, throwing that or getting rid of that rat poison.
Yeah, exactly.
And, making sure your team knows that it's all just.
I know.
It's all as you said. It's scripted, and everybody knows what not to do. Which is kind of why I'm hoping interviewing the Oklahoma kids later today that maybe they'll be like Missouri was back in, I guess it was 22. They had a wide receiver, TJ Moe. And he said, oh, man, it's the SEC, the lights are brighter, the girls are prettier, and the toilet paper softer. So,
I love you,
now,
kid.
see, that's a line. That's great. You're going to do just fine in this league. And obviously, Oklahoma and Texas have been in big leagues before. They know they've been in winning programs. They know they're coming over here. And at least in Texas' side this year, they're expected to do something. Mm-hmm. But Brent Venables' team won 10 games last year, so they're expected to do something. But we'll see how they handle everything. I'm sure it won't be anything huge or non-controversial. But obviously, being in Dallas, you got a lot more Texas and Oklahoma media contingent here with them. So we'll see how that goes too.
And we'll obviously get to South Carolina and Shane here in a minute, but just real quick on this, I think it's so interesting. We just had Cale Gundy on from the sports animal in Oklahoma City. Obviously, Cale played quarterback at Oklahoma, is on the coaching staff at Oklahoma.
And is he also a man in 40?
Yes, without a mullet, like his other Gundy.
There you go.
And I almost wanted to say, hey, Cale, what's up with Mike? Yeah. But I was like, yeah, better not. So I asked him, I said, look, the view that we get from Columbia, South Carolina, and you've said it, we've all said, it's like, it's interesting. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma's been the better football program forever. Forever. And we get Texas prints their own money in a basement in Austin. But, and of course, obviously Texas went to college football playoff last year. But this thing is like, here comes Texas and that other school. Yeah. I go, is it driving you guys crazy? He's like, oh, absolutely. And he went into a nice long thing on, we've only been really good since Bud Wilkinson, and we've only won national championship, the Heisman Trophy, and that school been possibly the most underachieving school in America forever. And you act, and basically I'm paraphrasing for him. It's like we're like the ugly redheaded stepsister with no teeth.
Yeah. And I think it's a big reason. One, Texas got the playoff last year, but again, Oklahoma won 10 games.
Won 10 games.
Still.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing I think everybody looked at too said, all right, well, divisions are going away in the SEC this year. Texas is a trendy pick to finish in the top 2 and thus get the chance to go to Atlanta and play for the title. And why? Look at their schedule.
I know.
Oklahoma got a general SEC schedule where it's like, yeah, okay, 3 of them are pretty much gimmies and 5 of them like, ooh, I don't know.
I know.
Where Texas like, well, you got to play Oklahoma. Yeah, okay. And you got to play Georgia. That's tough. But who else?
Yeah.
I mean, the best of the other 6 teams they play each finished 7-6 last year. The rest of them all had losing records. So it's like Texas, like, welcome to the league. Here's your ticket to Atlanta.
Yeah, that's almost like it feels like let's pump these cats up as much as possible. And I'll say this too. I think it's funny in the big room because again, it's Texas. No matter, and it's going to get asked, but just the way it's being asked, it's like Brian Kelly was great because Brian Kelly, not the most personable human being on the face of the earth, and they like the second or third question, Brian Kelly was, "Hey Brian, yeah, I'm from Longhorn. I love Longhorns.com. So, what do you think of Texas winning the SEC this year? What's your thoughts?" Kelly's like sitting there going, I coach LSU, right? I don't really watch Texas football every week. And he gave a nice answer, but every one of these sessions, it's like some, the Texas people doing Texas things, and it's
here's
what we
one
get
for you. This is the way you can kind of strike back at that, all right? Especially if you're in our part of the world. Tommy, this one's for you with a little Tommy trivia. Texas comes into the league. They have played every team in the SEC in their history. They have winning records against 13 of them. They have a 500 record against Mississippi State, who are the only 2 teams in the SEC that Texas does not have a winning record against.
South Carolina?
0-1. 1957. Gamecocks over Longhorns.
Sweet.
And the other?
Vanderbilt.
Wow. Texas is 3-8-1 against Vanderbilt. Now, they haven't played since the 20s. But, hey, 3-8-1 is 3-8-1. Am I right? So that'll be something to tell your friends. And obviously in South Carolina, you're not going to have to play them for at least a couple more years. So but hey, you got one up on them.
Nice.
That 1957 crew, also, as Jay Phillips knows, the year the Milwaukee Braves won the World Series.
That's right.
So over the New York Yankees. So, it was a giant slaying year. 57. Braves over Yankees, Gamecocks over Longhorns.
Look at that.
Good stuff.
Tommy is smiling right now. Excellent work by you, David Cloninger.
Yeah, love you, Tom.
Very nice. You got another segment in you? We'll talk about South Carolina here at
Absolutely.
SEC Media Days.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, David Cloninger and Post and Courier hanging out with us. 2024 SEC Media Days. We are hanging here in Dallas. And we want to we appreciate our sponsors. Folks like TEC Equipment Rental, your local, watch this, Takeuchi dealer. Check out them online, www.tecrental.com. Also, Behringer General Store, 138 West Evans Street in Florence. Come in, relax, chill, shop local. Behringer Country Store, where the past meets the future. We'll come back, hang out with David Cloninger some more, talk about Shane and the players and their presence here at SEC Media Days yesterday. It's coming up on the halftime show from Dallas on the Game. We are hanging here live, 2024 SEC Media Days in Dallas. David Cloninger, Posting Courier, Elijah here, Jay's here. We'll have Langston Moore, hopefully popping in with barbecue later. David, I wish we could podcast the conversations between breaks.
I don't think so, Terry. Both of us would be out of a job.
Exactly. We would. You and I would be working at Five Guys.
I got a 4-year-old to support, you know.
I know. I got colleges.
Of course, the way he rams his head into things, I'm like, he's a future offensive lineman. So I got that going for me.
Yes, you do. All right. Real quick. And Tyler, grab a cut real quick. Just grab a Debo Williams for us. We had Debo sit down here with us, and you pick it, Tyler. I'm putting it in your hands. You give us a Debo Williams real quick.
It's kind of easy for me because people don't talk down if you're already up. If you're up, you're not going to be talking down on somebody. You only talk down when you're looking up to somebody, you know, so I have no problem with it. People may comment on something I do, but they only commenting because they probably can't do it, you know. Somebody that's doing better than me or more than me, they're probably going to try to help me and say, hey, you can do it this way. But people try to tear you down when they're looking up to you.
That was Debo talking about social media and just the barrage that these guys get. And I thought that was a great way to look at it.
It is. And the main thing is that it's so hard to completely ignore everything that's being said to you because, you know, if you're on it, you're automatically going to see it.
Right.
The only way to truly not deal with it is just to delete the whole thing. And these kids aren't going to do that. And because of NIL being what it is, now you kind of have to do it to promote your brand.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get out there. You have to do your ads, you know, say, hey, all you got to do is do this tweet for our company and we'll give you something free. And, you know, that's the deal. So it's very tough to do. I feel bad for all the kids because, like it or not, they are public figures. But I know there were a few guys in South Carolina last year who really took that to heart, and that's why they're not playing football anymore. Not just for South Carolina, playing at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, just can't deal with this anymore. And, you know, you shouldn't have to. But that's the age in which we live in. You know, technology does not always improve. I mean, the fact is that X, Twitter, whatever you call it, it's one of the worst things that ever happened because it allows people to be their worst selves unchecked.
And I've always said this, David. These people have always been here.
Mm-hmm.
They were in different form. You know, they write letters back in the day, or they didn't emailed, and then they sent faxes, and now they can just pick up that phone and with their thumbs can be those people.
Yeah.
They just have access to be those people now when they didn't have this easy of an access to it.
There's no filter, and you know, you do feel bad for them, but it's also like, well, I realize that there really isn't a line anymore besides saying, well, just get off of it. Like, well, now you can. If you want to cash these NIL checks, you have to do a lot of that stuff. And, of course, there are some good things that happen because of it, fundraisers and such like that. Oh, you know, so-and-so's been in a bad medical situation and you can get the word out quickly. But, man, it's very, very tough. I mean, obviously, if someone tweets at me and is like, oh, my God, you're terrible, I'm like, yeah, well. And what are you going to do? I mean, I still get paid no matter if you read it or not. So I don't really care. But the fact is that these kids, and they are young men, young women, it's tough to deal with.
Right.
But I think it was Nick Saban, you know, was saying that, you know, it's impossible to completely be shielded from that these days. But just going to deal with it.
David Cloninger hanging with us, Posting Courier here on Radio Row at 2024 SEC Media Days on halftime showing the game. All right, so we look at this team, and whether it's Debo, Boogie Huntley, Luke Doty, Shane on the podium. They used the word hunger. Yesterday, I thought also there is and I don't like, and I said this earlier when I was doing the hit with Tyler. I hate that chip on your shoulder. It's so bleh. Like, you know, shock the world. Nobody believes. I hate all that stuff. It is what it is. Please take that out of our vocabulary. But they're walking around like, okay, yeah, we went 5-7 last year. Okay, pick us last, pick us 12th, whatever. We know what we got, and we're going to show you what we got. There's an attitude among the folks across the street,
and it is good to see. And I don't not believe that is the case. That these guys know that they left something on the table last year, and that they can go out and do it. However, there is also that flip side to it, to where, like, listen, guys, there's really nothing else to talk about because, as punishing and as harsh as it may sound to say, nobody's here to talk to you. Mm-hmm. They're not. I mean, you're kind of just one of those teams that's filling the day. So you got to give them some kind of topic. You don't have to make it bombastic, but you just say, if you talk about this, they're not going to ask you about anything else. Mm-hmm. So, and you do come in and say, well, it wasn't a good year. They know that they left some on the table, but Shane was saying, like, I remember 3 or 4 games where, one play away. I'm like, I remember one. I mean, obviously, maybe you saw another play that really influenced, but I just remember one more tackle against Florida, and at least you go to a bowl game.
Right.
But anyway, it didn't happen. They went 5-7, and they know it's not acceptable with the defense in particular, and they did bring Boogie and Debo. On paper, you have the oldest defense you've had, the most veteran defense you've had, the most talented defense you've had. So it's not so much pressure that you want to say or to verbalize, but to say, you have to be there.
Right.
There's no excuse to not be there. And when you're breaking in a basically new quarterback, basically a brand new running back, even though he's played in the league before, a lot of unknown wide receivers, and a line that you like, full of young talent, was all hurt last year, it's going to depend more on that.
Yep.
Maybe not so much against Old Dominion, but against Kentucky, to say you have to be there and pick up your offense. It reminds me of 1992, first year in the league. They're 0-5. They're going nowhere. Steve Tannehill's going to start, freshman quarterback, in that game 6. And he said, guys, just listen. Just hold them to 21 points or less. Hold them to 21 or less, and I'll take care of the rest. And that's all they needed to do. They had talent on that team, clearly. It just wasn't coming together, and it worked. So hopefully they won't have to bail Linares out too much. But the fact is that you do have a little bit of a warm-up with ODU. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. And then you go into that and say, okay, well, to me, that second game is really the season. And you say, you go up there to Kentucky and win, which is a very winnable game.
Yep.
Whole season's in front of you. You can make it what you want of it, because there's a whole lot there that you can take advantage of. You lose, certainly nothing's over, but it's like, assuming you win against ODU, you got 5 more wins. Where are they going to come from?
Right.
So you come up here, you talk about being hungry, you talk about, hey, keep sleeping on us. That's fine. I mean, because they're going to do it anyway, but they're not doing it just to be obstinate. They're not doing it just to be contrary, saying like, I'm going to show those South Carolina guys this year. They're not doing it for that. It's just, look, man, what do you have? You went 5-7. You lost your QB and a first-round draft pick at receiver. You had no running game last year. You still don't. It's unknown this year.
Yeah.
So where else would we put you?
Right.
Where else would we put? It's like men's basketball last year. Now that worked out.
That worked out okay, didn't it?
But of course, it was nobody's really, pardon the term, crapping on you, Lamont. It's just where else are really going to put you?
Right.
You're coming off an 11-win season and lost your most productive player. So, but things can work out. We'll be discussing it throughout the next 6 weeks, but it's just, you know what you got to do. And you got to go out there. And I think that you do have the talent to be a lot better than you're projected. Now, what does that mean? Who knows? I think, was it Phil Steele who said, I look at South Carolina, they're going 9-3. I thought,
couple of
really?
computers, a couple of Phil's computers.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do that. Sure.
Get that in a heartbeat.
That'd be terrific. But you got to go out there and do it. But I think it definitely lines up to where there's some games on there that I would look and say not going to happen, but there's a lot of games on it I say that's a coin flip.
A teetering. It's those those games that teeter either way.
I never break down a schedule, Terry, and say win-loss, win-loss. I say, all right, look, these are the games that they're probably not going to win. These are the games that probably will win. And then there's usually 5 or 6 at South Carolina to where this is a 50-50 shot. So I look at that this year and say it's about 50-50 shot for 4 or 5 of them.
And to your point, last year, they lost those games. And we were talking about it yesterday. We've talked about it since it happened. There were moments in all those games. Go back to them, and it's that time somebody's got to make a play on either side of the ball. And typically, the other side of the ball, the other team made those plays. I mean, the one time they made a play like that was when Stone Blanton made the pick against Jacksonville State. 'Cause, look, let's be real. We're all sitting in that press box going, they're going to lose. They can't stop Jacksonville State. They're going to lose if nobody makes a play. They're going to lose, and Blanton makes the play.
Right.
But they didn't make enough of those, like the end of the half against Tennessee.
Yeah.
Volunteers made a play, pick 6, touchdown. Not enough of those plays were made last year on either side of the ball for South Carolina.
And again, they played fantastic against Clemson, but Clemson made the play. And it was a freakish fluke thing, but they had the presence of mind to say, hey, there's that ball on the ground. I think that's still a live ball. Let me run it in just in case. It was like, yeah, that's a touchdown. Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And, of course, you feel so bad for Clayton White, who went through the ringers first 2 months and then came out and had a really good defense last month. And he walks out of Williams-Brice like, I'm not going to put myself on a pedestal here because the first 2 months is my fault, but you hold that team 3 field goals, you need to win that football game.
Think about it. Did not give up an offensive touchdown to Clemson in your barn, and you didn't win.
That's frustrating.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is frustrating. But,
Yeah.
It's up there. And you look at that Clemson game, to me, that's a 50-50 game right now because it's kind of like LSU right now. It's LSU, it's Clemson. But for this team this year, I'm like, I can't say that there's anything to say, oh, that's a definite loss. I can't say that. I mean, I look at a game at Oklahoma like, that's probably going to be pretty tough to win. But game against LSU at home, game against Clemson on the road, like that's not – I mean, there's nothing to say that's a definite L. So USC's got to go and make all those 50-50 games, call heads, and win that coin flip.
That's right.
Get that Harvey Dent two-headed coin.
David Cloninger, hey, I was for the Post and Courier. And we were talking with Debo yesterday. And by the way, after talking to him, bro, I want to go play football.
It is a good look when he's wearing the 3-piece suit, open shirt with no tie, and got that chain on. I'm like, okay,
and
all right.
and he's talking to you, and he's looking at you, and he's ready to go. I mean, I was talking earlier with Tyler on the Extra Point, and I was like, Debo was ready to suit up yesterday.
And the thing is, I love what he says. Like, I had my personal goals last year, which were 100 tackles and first team all conference. Well, I did those. Like, yes, you did. And he said, but my team goals were championships. We're going to win. So this year, championship. I'm like, we talking SEC. He looked at me and said, championship. You understand? Championship.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get you. Okay.
Yeah,
and again, they've got guys that they like. They've got guys that have been there. You're not going to have to rely on a couple of dudes to just come in stone cold and play. I mean, and really, you look at it, Terry, they've been very, I don't want to say fortunate, but it's gone very well for them when they've had to do it the past 2 years. R.J. Roderick goes down 2 years ago on the third play of the year. Nick Emenwari comes and becomes a freshman All-American. Nick gets hurt last year against North Carolina. Jalen Kilgore comes in and becomes, a very strong freshman All-American, or was he sophomore?
Freshman.
He was all conference.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, so that's working. That's really doing well. So you hope it doesn't have to go to that route again. But even as Shane Beamer said, because I don't know if there's anything to be done to prevent these offensive line injuries, but did you and Luke Day work on a few? He said, well, there's always tweaks and things. He said, but yeah, we got together and said, is there anything we can try, we can do? And they came up with a plan. Not so much about injuries, but about early season injuries.
Yeah.
Last 3 years, Sherrod Green goes down early, and I think in the third game. Mo Kaba and Jordan Strawn got hurt in the same game against Arkansas 2 years ago. They're out for the year. Last year, it was 3 guys. Nick Emenwari got hurt in the first game, but he did come back. But Mo Kaba got hurt again, and Casey Henry got hurt. And it's, geez.
Right.
I mean, you can't just lose starters in the first game. So you hope it happens, but, man – South
got one more segment in you? Hang out, can you?
Let's see.
You got one more?
Yeah, okay.
All right, let's do one more, David Cloninger. Our SEC coverage from Media Days brought to you by Forest Lake Travel, official travel agent of the Game Network. Family vacation or road trip to a Gamecock game. Just call 803-738-1520. Also, Mr. P's Pool and Supplies, expert pool services in Dillon and Florence, 843-841-0900. One more segment with our buddy from the Post and Courier, David Cloninger, next from SEC Media Days on the Halftime Show in the Game. Hanging out here, Media Row, Radio Row, Omni in Dallas, 2024 SEC Media Days. Bug David Cloninger for a third segment. David's just doing it because he's hoping Langston will show up with the barbecue. I say, not to talk to me. He's just waiting for the barbecue.
How'd you know? And, Langston and I go way back. He played for the Trojans. I played for the Trojans. So, there's that whole thing. Who cares if they were actually 4.5 hours apart? So,
And by the way, how about that pizza yesterday at Langston? Came with 8 pies.
It was amazing. Really good stuff. Wood-fired.
It was good, man.
Wasn't glopped all over with tomato sauce. I loved it, man. I felt like I was back at home eating Village Idiot, but, just terrific stuff. So.
A nice plug. Good job to get our boy Brian in there.
I was raised on Village Pizza.
Oh, it's so good.
I got my own booth over
I know you do. It's so funny. Whenever we go to Village, we can't sit. That's a Cloninger booth. All right. I appreciate you hanging this hour, man.
Worries,
I really do.
Worries.
All right. So let's take this defense at the end of the year. Shane had that come to Jesus with Clayton like the year before with Satterfield.
Yeah.
We got to fix something.
Mm-hmm.
To Clayton's credit, did some tweaking, went 3-3-5, started doing some different things with pressure, getting more aggressive, going after quarterbacks. They did a little tweaking in the back end because of coverage, let's be honest. The nickel could not cover the slot.
Right.
It just couldn't happen. It had to stop. It just had to stop. So all these tweaks, the defense was statistically one of the best in the SEC in November, and I get it. They weren't going up against juggernauts offensively but still, they shut folks down. Clemson game, no offensive touchdown. Vanderbilt game was shut down. The Kentucky game. And Debo said, we're confident that we're going to continue, and he called it throwing donuts.
Yeah.
David, I've always said this. I don't care who you're playing in any sport, anywhere. You walk off the field, the court, the diamond, the rink, you won and you played well. You don't sit back and go, well, the other guy sucked. You walk off going, I got something, right?
Yeah.
They've got that confidence that they can carry November into September. And you and I were talking about this off there. They've got to.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to carry that into September because I just really believe that this defense, at least the first month of the year, is going to have to carry things while the offense gets the training wheels off.
Well, it absolutely will. And, of course, the big question through spring, through the offseason was like, this 3-3-5 worked, man. Is that going to be your base? And Clayton wasn't going to put it out there, but he was like, look, we're going to have it ready. It obviously works. Our guys are obviously comfortable with it. A lot of it was the goal line, not necessarily goal line, but red zone D. So they knew that they had it. The verbiage is a lot of it's the same as what you're doing. So I said, okay, so is it definitely 4-2-5 or 4-2-4, what have you? And he said, well, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to have 3-3-5, not in a back pocket, in a side pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, but we'll just have to see what everybody else has, the opponents, what they're going to open in to what we want to do. So could we go back to 4-3-4? Absolutely, we could. And could you add in, if you're going to play dime, could you go to 6 defensive backs? Sure, maybe you could. And then what are you going to do? Just have a straight edge rusher? You're going to drop back to outside linebacker? What are you going to do? So there's a whole lot of options here, but the main thing, they feel very comfortable doing it. And again, they don't like the term pressure, but they know what's on them.
Yeah.
It's you guys have to carry the weight for a little while. It's your turn. You have to do it because they trust Sellers. They trust all the young talent on offense, but they know if the other team doesn't score, you can't lose. It might be a 0-0 tie, but you're not going to lose. So they know, but they've got what they feel very comfortable in, and they know that they've got that talent ready. And, it wasn't a comfortable conversation between Clayton and Shane Beamer at the end, but at no time was the term change brought up. At no time. It was, they brought him in and said, what are you going to do to make this better? Because the continuity is important. You're going to have these guys back. What are you going to do? And he said, all right, well, here's what we got. And they went out, they addressed some needs because run defense has not been good for the past 3 years. Pass rush has not been good the past 3 years. They went out and got Kyle Kennard, an edge rusher from Georgia Tech. They ended up getting, this is in the recruiting battle, Dylan Stewart, a guy who maybe not start game one, but he's going to be starting by the end of it. I can guarantee you that. So they've got guys to really help them with where they're weak. And as for Debo Williams, he's like, I don't mind making 100 tackles. I'd love to do that again, but of course, that means the ball's coming at me a whole lot. 67 tackles, and not blaming the D-line. It's like everybody knows they got to get better up there.
Right.
So they do have the talent. You have Huntley, you have Hemingway, you got Brian Thomas, who's really having a great offseason, and you got Yumi Azulu, who played some last year, and then he will be in kind of that top 5 rotation this year. But you've also got a guy, Bengali Kamara, who's played very well, Bam Martin Scott. Who really flourished in that 3-3-5. So you found some things that perhaps you weren't expecting to find. Now you got them. And, hey, just get your best 11 on the field.
Always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks a lot for hanging
Not
out,
a problem.
doing everything. And again, yeah, we'll text you when the barbecue shows up.
Make sure it's pork. Make sure some pork's in there.
David Cloninger, Post and Courier, covers the Gamecocks. Thanks, David. Rick Henry from WIS TV is going to pop in with us next hour. Halftime show live from the 2024 SEC Media Days Radio Row at the Omni in Dallas. Hour 2 of the halftime show coming up here on the game. Halftime show live from Radio Row 2024 SEC Media Days in Dallas. Terry Ford, Elijah Campbell, Jay Phillips. We just had David Cloninger from the Post and Courier hanging around. Rick Henry from WIS TV will be here sometime in the 1 o'clock hour Eastern. My computers are in the Eastern time zone. My phone's in the Central time zone. So we are hanging out up until 3 o'clock on the game. The podium, first coach today out of the chute was Kirby Smart. Obviously, head coach of Georgia. Josh Heupel from Tennessee was second. Obviously, we're kind of busy here doing the show or getting ready for the show when Heupel was on the podium. Got to watch Kirby, though, and it's just very interesting. Listen to Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart's got this thing down to a science. He just does. And he learned that from Nick. Kirby just got the answers are robotic isn't the right word because Kirby's got some personality. But it's just the answers are just the perfect answers you want to give at an event like this. Not the greatest for media purposes, but in the world of coach speak, Kirby's perfect. Hey, Tyler, let's fire up with Kirby to the example. He was asked about like last year, you win the SEC championship game, you're in the college football playoff with a chance to do something that hasn't been done since University of Minnesota in the 1930s. Go 3 straight. And Kirby was asked basically about, do you have a chip on your shoulder from last year or using last year's motivation? And here's Kirby's answer about the chip on the shoulder.
We're dealing with new challenges this year. We don't have a chip on our shoulder in terms of people trying to use that as motivation. I've never used a failure from the previous year as motivation, and I've never used the success of a previous year as motivation. We won't do that this year. That's not who we are. We want to recreate ourselves to say in the best light we can.
I thought it was very interesting. We don't do chips. We don't use we didn't use our championship as motivation. We didn't use last year's huge disappointment of losing a really close SEC championship game to Alabama to prevent us from three-peating as motivation. Every year's different. We're not using the past to push us forward. Because that's like human nature to use the past if you fell short. And I guess it just depends on who you are and where you're at. That's Kirby's quote-unquote process. We start from scratch the next year. We got new players, new coaches. We're not the same team we were last year. Last year's over. Either we celebrate last year or we learn from the failure of last year, and what can we apply to this coming season? That's kind of the Kirby Smart process and what he does. And, I think every coach is different. With Shane. Shane has let everyone know that last year was unacceptable, and that's not who South Carolina is. And it will not be. And if you are okay with last year as a player or anybody in that program, maybe you need to go find another place of employment or another place to play because we aren't going to accept 5-7. We're not going to accept mediocrity or losing records. And it's human nature to use that as motivation because it was such a disappointment. And that should fuel you. And again, because we're human beings. So everybody's different and fluid. I just always find it interesting how different coaches use that chip on their shoulder or motivation from the previous year. Because we sit here in the media, we talk about it all the time. Fans talk about it. Last year, man, you fell short. Tomorrow morning, you better be in the weight room. You have no fun in the offseason. You don't enjoy the offseason. You don't go on vacation. You don't see your family. Stay locked at the facility. And just every minute of every day, you should be working to get better, to do what you didn't do the year before. And that's how we look at it from the outside. But I always find it interesting, how do they handle it on the inside? Do you take things as motivation and put it up everywhere from the year before? Some coaches do. Kirby says, that's not me, man. We don't do that. Whether it's motivating to repeat as champions or motivation from the taste in our mouth from falling short the year before. We don't use any of that mess. All right, also from Kirby, Tyler, let's hit the difference in facing Bama without Nick. I think that was interesting too.
I don't expect them to change. That's two great universities. I mean, you're talking about two teams that have been at the forefront of college football, and it's probably going to be that way for a long time. Both great universities, both committed. The commitment to excellence at both places is really high. The standard that Coach created there at Alabama and the standard we've created, those two are going to be matching up for a long time, and I think it's what's great about college athletics.
Which is the right answer. Again, Kirby's got this thing down to a science. And again, his thought is, look, Bama's, I got to treat Bama as Bama. And Nick's there, Nick's not there. Kalen DeBoer, Nick Saban, Nick Nolte, it doesn't matter. We're playing Alabama, and we look at it that, Alabama's got a rich tradition and lineage. Now, to be fair, Alabama was kind of wandering around the wilderness between, after Coach Stallings won a national championship in the early 90s, Alabama was, yeah. And then Nick Saban showed up and made Alabama something that a level above what Bear Bryant had, to be fair. Kalen DeBoer has won everywhere. Kalen DeBoer is a guy, he's a winner. And every level as a coach. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to win at Alabama. He's going to win like Nick. I mean, that's ridiculous. Can't believe that.
One thing that hasn't changed about this Alabama team is the talent on it. Yeah, they lost a couple guys to the portal. Caleb Downs famously went to Ohio State, and they nearly lost Caden Proctor until he decided he didn't want to live in Iowa anymore and came back to Tuscaloosa. But
that was interesting, wasn't it?
Exactly. This is still a very talented team. They've been recruiting incredibly well. Pretty much no fall off from when Saban is there. So it's going to be a really talented team, coached by a coach that's won literally everywhere that he's been, as you said. Now, does that mean they're going to go undefeated to win the national championship? I don't know. I would say probably not, but I'm not expecting them to fall off and suddenly be a 7-5 team all of a sudden.
No, I think Caleb DeBoer is a hell of a head coach. I really do. And again, if you're going to hold him to the standard of Nick Saban, obviously that's silly. But Caleb DeBoer, I think, is going to win at Alabama. He's that good. And you look at his first true recruiting cycle, Tyler, they're top 5 in the nation in recruiting. And everybody said, well, DeBoer has never shown he can recruit. Well, he's got a staff. Maybe it's not Caleb DeBoer, but he's got a staff that's out there pulling high-level high school players for the 2025 cycle. So I think Alabama's going to be fine. They might not be Nick Saban Alabama, but they're not going to be Mike Dubose Alabama either. You know what I mean?
They're going to be good. And I'm very intrigued to see, as obviously we saw what, DeBoer was able to do with Michael Penix Jr., who he brought with him over from Indiana to Washington, the success they're able to have. Like Jalen Milroe is somebody that we saw progress as last year went along in his first year as a starter. What's an entire offseason and a second season as a starter going to do with him in terms of his offensive development, and how great of a quarterback can he be at the college level this year?
I want to play one more cut from Kirby. Talking about the tough schedule, Tyler. I guess it's the third Kirby cut, tough road schedule in the SEC. Then I want to talk about something Kirby said as an answer to one of the Texas media folks asking about playing the Longhorns. But play this cut about the tough road schedule.
Yeah, initially I was wondering how I got that draw, but we're not one to complain. We're one to be excited. I think when you step into the shoes of a University of Georgia football player, you accept that challenge is going to be there. I mean, we kind of embrace that and we love it. I mean, and what you didn't get to mention is that we open with Clemson too, who's one of the top teams in the top programs in the country. So we're really excited about that. I think that motivates our off season so that we have the right kind of approach to the offseason. And our guys embrace that. I mean, as coaches, you want to play the best. And people forget that when you spent time in the NFL, every week was like that. So when Texas and Oklahoma came into the conference, every schedule was going to get harder. It wasn't going to get easier. It was going to get harder. And we embrace that. We look forward to it and excited for the challenge to go to some really tough places.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's going to Ole Miss. They're going to Texas. They're going to Bama. Plus, they've got the neutral site game in Atlanta with Clemson. So it's a tough road. But what I like, and I love coaches who, and not just Kirby, but coaches in general, who embrace that. So, yeah, no, we want to play good. We want to play good teams. We want to be a really good team. Really good teams want to go play really good teams and measure themselves against the best. And that's where you want to get. I mean, look, some coaches, and you know this, Tyler, will poor mouth their team or say, oh, my schedule is so tough, I don't know how we're even going to score. But hopefully when they're not in front of the media, they're looking at their team going, no, we want to play a tough schedule because we want to be the best of the best. And to be the best of the best, you got to play in these games, compete and win in these games.
Well, not only that, we don't know what strength of schedule is going to mean in terms of this new college football playoff with the 12 team. Now, we expect Georgia to be one of those teams that's either, competing for the SEC championship or what have you that, is probably pretty safely in. But let's say you're a 10-2 team and you're right there on the bubble and, you're having to compare, not that I expect Kentucky to be this good, but let's say we're having to split hairs between a 10-2 Georgia and a 10-2 Kentucky. Guess whose schedule's a whole lot harder out of conference? That would be Georgia's, because we know Kentucky likes to schedule cupcakes. So that's something that can come back and bite you if you're not scheduling tough opponents out of the conference like a team like Georgia or Alabama or Texas or these other teams are doing by challenging yourself. Because, again, that's something that's probably going to end up mattering a lot at the end of the year.
I mean, you're saying that Kentucky playing the Lexington School of Nursing is not as tough as playing like Clemson?
Let me run through Georgia's non-conference schedule and Kentucky's. Georgia's got Clemson, Tennessee Tech, UMass, and Georgia Tech in their non-conference slate this year. So pretty fair balance, 2 Power 5 teams there. Kentucky has Southern Miss, Ohio, Murray State, and Louisville. How's that stack up?
No doubt. The other thing, too, Kirby had a question, because, again, look, Texas is Texas. And one of the Texas media members brought up, playing Texas. And, and Texas, playing Texas. How hard is it to play Texas in the college football playoff last year and blah, blah, blah. And you got to go to Texas. How do you anticipate how hard that game is going to be? Or however it was, the question was laid out. And Kirby Smart had this answer, and it's so Nick Saban. Every game's the toughest game on our schedule. Every week. Whoever we're playing that week, that's the toughest game on our schedule. And he was done. That was it, Tyler. He was finished. It was like, that's it. He's like, we look at every game as this opponent. Like, I'll give you an example. Tennessee Tech in week 2, toughest team on the schedule. Because that's the way Kirby rolls, just like Nick.
I can't wait for the presser where he's hyping up the Golden Eagles as the 85 Bears.
There's no doubt about it. But that is what Kirby learned from Nick.
Sure.
He learned that's the way you do this. Every week is a new week. The team you're playing is the toughest team in the history of mankind. It's like Space Jam, right? Sure. Every week is like Space Jam. And that is what Kirby Smart learned from Nick Saban. Don't take that rat poison. Every week you're playing, they're lining up too, and they're trying to win too. And they're on scholarship too. There's no, this is the toughest week. Oh man, that schedule's a bear in week 4, 5, 6. No, according to Kirby Smart, every week is the toughest week of the season. I love the answer because again, the Texas people are pumping their chests like Texas does.
Sure.
He was just like, nah, each week, whoever we're playing that week, that's the toughest team we're playing.
Not getting.
And then, of course, he
out
said
of
nice
him.
things about Texas. Right. He said nice things about Texas because, again, that's the smart thing to do. And obviously, they were in the college football playoff last year, and a lot of people think that they're going to be fighting for an SEC championship. I'm not among those, and they might prove me wrong.
Right.
I just think you're not in the Big 12 anymore. Not to be mean. You're coming into the SEC, and I think that who said it? I forget who said it yesterday. Was it yesterday? Talking about coming into the SEC. Oh yeah, they were giving like someone asked about advice you'd give Oklahoma and Texas and what's different from the SEC. A little Shane, matter of fact. He said the week-to-week physical pounding of the SEC and the quality of players you go up against, not just in the non-conference or in a bowl or in a playoff, but every week, the level you're playing is so different. There is no break.
That's right.
And that's what again, this is nothing against Texas. Look, God loves Sark and what they did last year. I'm happy for them. But this is every week. You know what I'm saying? Every week. So we will see what happens with Texas. That was some Kirby Smart at the podium. And we'll get a little Josh Heupel for you as you get a taste of 2024 SEC Media Days. All right, we are sponsored by the Anastapula Law Firm. Don't scream, call Akeem. Any kind of accidents or any issues that have resulted in injury, 800-ALL-7s. Also, LexMed Ortho, getting the best results, getting you better sooner. That's LexMed. We'll get back in here 2024 SEC Media Days live from Radio Row in Dallas on the halftime show in the game. 803-875-MENS. You might know that number better than your family. We talk about it so much here. The Men's Clinic of South Carolina. But it's a thing. You're a guy, you're getting older, and it's not working the way it used to. Sleep, exercise, recovery from exercise, your memory, your drive, your life drive, professional drive, personal drive, sexual drive. It's just you're not the dude you used to be. It might just be low testosterone. You call the Men's Clinic of South Carolina at 803-875-MENS. You set up a free confidential consultation with Dr. Dan and the staff. You tell them your story. If they think it could be low testosterone, what they'll do is do lab work. If it comes back low T, they will put you on a program specifically designed for you. Not some cookie cutter thing where you text and they send you something in a brown paper bag. No, specifically designed for you to get you feeling like you again. 803-875-MENS. Make the call, do the consultation. Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Get back to feeling like you again. Live from the 2024 SEC Media Days in Dallas. Terry Ford halftime show here on the game. Jay's here, Elijah's here. We just had nice conversation so far. Cale Gundy from the sports animal in Oklahoma City came in. Obviously, Sooners, it's Oklahoma Day. We're going to give you a little taste of Brent Venables coming up at the top of the hour. He'll be on the podium, Oklahoma head coach. Also, Josh Heupel has already gone, as has Kirby Smart. And yesterday, it was interesting. Brian Kelly went first. He had Lane Kiffin in the afternoon. Shane was sandwiching between Kiffin and Brian Kelly. And then Tyler, God love Clark Lee.
Oh. I can't think of a worse spot. Well, maybe at 4:00 on Thursday. That might have been a worse spot because he might have been in there with the janitors at the Omni Hotel in Dallas, and that's it.
I'm telling you, I felt so bad for him. And my man's suited up. He's ready to roll. He comes in. There's like 3 people sitting there.
Well, and
one was that it was housekeeping and a couple other people.
So I had the pleasure of having to skim through his entire presser to see if he said anything particularly interesting that we might want to use and repurpose, for our shows, not only this week, but over the next couple weeks. And like the thing that sticks out to me about Clark Lee, he doesn't have a personality, right? Like one of the, and I'm not trying to do this to dog him, but somebody asked him the question like, hey, Texas coming into the conference, Vanderbilt and South Carolina are the only 2 programs to have winning records over Texas in football, as a something fun to roll with. And he just like completely shot the question down. We're not focused on that. No disrespect to what happened 100 years ago, but it's like, man, you gotta play with those things sometimes. Let people see your personality from time to time.
You know what? It's like you wish you would have went. Yeah, I wish we had some players from those teams.
Yeah,
or just something, anything,
something.
And I there's 2 schools of thought on this. Like with Vanderbilt, for example. You think, okay, it's very tough to win there. Obviously,
sure.
We get it. We know you're Vandy. So, like I guess if you're Lee, and maybe he doesn't do this. In my lifetime, 1 coach has been successful at Vanderbilt.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about 6 and 6s and stumbling into the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. I mean successful. 1 guy, and that was James Franklin. And and I get it. There was some off the field stuff there that was unacceptable, and we're going to push that aside and just talk football.
Right.
If I'm Clark Lee, don't you kind of, okay, how did that guy do this here? Was it just the fact that he's a good head coach and good head coaches win when, despite wherever they're at? Or was there something he did that I can use to help me win here at Vanderbilt? Does that make any sense to you?
It does make sense. I do think it's also important to note where the SEC East was at the time when Franklin was having that success. It wasn't exactly, a murderer's row at that point in time. So I do think that having a down side of the conference probably helped him out a little bit, but there's no doubt that James Franklin's a great head coach. And, we've seen the success he's had at Penn State, hasn't been able to break past the Ohio States and the Michigans, but great head coaches win no matter where they're at. And I do think that goes a long way. And I this is obviously before NIL and the portal being what it is. I think that may have been the last opportunity to win at that kind of clip before everything changed. And now that everything has changed, and again, we saw Vanderbilt lose pretty much half their roster this past offseason before they started ponying up on the NIL front. I just think they're just continually like going upstream on everything that I don't know how they find their footing.
Right. So that your university really doesn't care about winning.
Right.
I mean, that, right? I mean,
right.
So besides looking at what can I glean from Franklin, there's two ways to go here, right? The one is you get a charismatic head coach who maybe because he's charismatic and has a big personality that maybe he can win some recruiting battles, right? Maybe he can be a guy that can woo a few players that you wouldn't normally get by just having a coach being a coach.
Sure.
So maybe you find that guy with that personality who would take that question yesterday and have a lot of fun with it, right? Oh, yeah, 1930. Yeah, tell you what, Texas knows not to come to Nashville. They know what's up. We got a winning record. Have a little fun with it, right?
Sure.
Joke around. Be a big type of personality guy. Or you get that football dude who's just on another level as a football dude who is going to make you as competitive as humanly possible because he's football.
Right.
It feels like Lee is more of that guy, and it hasn't really been working. I mean, they had a nice they beat like Kentucky and Florida 2 years ago, late in the year, but last year was awful. Nobody expects anything more awfulness. I don't know. As long as Vanderbilt doesn't care about winning in football, they just care about the checks they get from the SEC. I don't know who can replicate what James Franklin did. And you painted it perfect, Tyler, of this world's different now too. And I don't know. I go back to NIL though. Last time I checked, Vanderbilt's a private school that they have a few bucks in the bank, right?
They do.
Would anybody ever decide to care enough to maybe start using your advantage as a private school with a lot of rich alum or kids at the school who are being sent there by very rich parents, and maybe you start taking advantage of that and maybe build an NIL coffer that could make you matter? I don't know, but they could do. Mark Cuban's kid goes to Vandy.
Sure.
Just saying, man. I'm just saying, you've got rich folks who are somehow tied to that university. If you gave a bleep, you might be able to. I mean, look what Ole Miss has done with the Grove Collective.
Sure.
Ole Miss.
Well,
I mean, so I don't know.
And it's one of those things that, and we're just past the 3-year anniversary of NIL. It's almost kind of like if you didn't put as much emphasis on it when it began 3 years ago, like I said, it feels like they're constantly fighting upstream here. Like you're having a tough time getting people to buy into it now because, again, you just have this program that has this reputation of being at the bottom. And I imagine most people look at that and say, well, I don't know how much my money is going to make a difference in that because they've just perennially been this, bottom of the barrel program.
Yeah, but it's interesting. And poor Clark was talking yesterday at 4 o'clock, and you could hear crickets, and there's some people snoring, and it just was. Anyway, so that was day one. Focusing back on day two, Josh Heupel was at the podium. Much is expected of Tennessee this year. Much expected of their second year. Well, he played in the bowl game and got a little taste. Still redshirt freshman quarterback. Our boy Nico. You want to try it? You're pretty good at it. Go ahead.
Nico Iamaleava. I think I'm close.
I like it. Close enough.
But here's the thing. The first name's unique enough. You say Nico, you know what we're talking about.
That's what I'm going to stick with that. So here's Josh Heupel on the podium talking about Nico and his potential.
Yeah, was highly recruited because of his athletic traits. He's got the ability to throw the football sideline to sideline, vertically down the football field, extremely accurate, loose, quick triggered arm. He's got the ability to extend and make plays with his feet. That's as a runner that's, evading and making a play down the field. The thing that I've loved about Nico is, when he came into the building, he wanted to earn the respect of his teammates, and you do that through your actions, not your words. Everybody understands how hard he works to become the best that he can at his craft. He takes great ownership in his skill set and developing it, understanding of our offense, and as a young player, gets his first start in the bowl game. One of the best compliments you can give to a quarterback is when it goes from the practice field to the game field, it slows down for him. During the course of the bowl game, it slowed down for him. Thought he was in great command out there. Now, there's a lot of things that he learned from that game. He's had great urgency in his preparation all offseason. I'm really excited to see his growth and development as a young quarterback throughout the course of this 24-hour journey.
Yeah, look, everybody's drooling in Knoxville over Nico's potential and high upside and obviously his NIL check. So we're going to talk on the other side about Nico in Tennessee. And there's Josh Heupel discussing his young quarterback. It's 2024 SEC Media Days live from Radio Row in Dallas, sponsored in part by Lawyer Lisa, offering estate planning, elder care, and probate. They spend their days and nights worrying about your future, so you don't have to. Go online, lawyerlisa.com. Ziegler Card Sales, providing top-notch golf cart sales and service for over 20 years. Call 843-621-5016. We'll talk about Nico and Heupel in Tennessee next on the Halftime Show live from SEC Media Days on the Game. From Radio Row, the Omni in Dallas, 2024 SEC Media Days. Kirby Smart went first today. Josh Heupel went second. Coming up, Brent Venables. We're going to give you a little taste of Brent Venables at the podium at the top of the hour as the Oklahoma head coach, his first trip to the DS today at SEC Media Days. Terry Ford hanging out. Jay's here. Elijah's here. Langston Moore's bringing barbecue. We're excited about that. David Cloninger was hanging. We're going to get Rick Henry from WIS TV here at some point in the show, hopefully, as Rick had to go off and do some stuff. Cale Gundy from the Sports Animal in Oklahoma City also was with us as well, talking about Oklahoma coming in. It's Oklahoma's day, like we said. Going back to Tennessee, Tyler, I thought that, let's just be real about last year.
Mm-hmm.
They were a quarterback away from being a college football playoff contender.
Oh, 1,000%.
I didn't think they would get in. I still think they would have fallen short. I don't think even with a good quarterback, they were as good as Georgia, for an example, or maybe even Alabama by the end of the year. But if Tennessee would have had, forget Hendon Hooker level quarterback play, Tyler.
Sure.
If Tennessee just had solid quarterback play with a guy that could make the throws consistently, Tennessee would have been in the conversation for a much bigger spot in the postseason last year.
Heupel runs such a efficient level of offense, and Hendon Hooker was the perfect quarterback running that 2 years ago. And a lot of people thought, well, you just plug in a Joe Milton and you'll be fine. But again, Milton was a different type of quarterback. His accuracy was all over the place. As we said, he can throw the ball 1,000 yards. That's not great if you overthrow your receiver by 990 of them, which was a problem for them last year. So, and again, Nico is coming in as a redshirt freshman. A lot of hype around him. We got to see him play more than just the bowl game, up to this point. But, there's a lot of hype that he is that kind of guy in the mold of a Hendon Hooker that can run this offense to a T exactly how Heupel needs it run.
Yeah, and if he is 80% of what they think he's going to be, Tennessee's a much more efficient offense and a better team. Look, they got Pierce coming off the edge defensively, who a lot of people think will be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Look, here's the ironic part. 2 years ago, Tyler, it was their defense that held them back.
Yeah.
About the back, South Carolina just scored again on them.
Right.
This past season, it was quarterback play. So if you get efficient play from your quarterback, Tennessee's going to be able to run the ball. One of the things that we get so caught up in Heupel's offense and how they throw the ball and what they do with the receivers and all that stuff, this offense, the way it's built and it's spread the way it's spread, they run the football really well. And they're going to run the ball well again this year.
Yeah, they lose Jalen Wright, but Dylan Sampson going to step up into that leading role, and he had a very impressive year last year. Averaged 5.7 yards, carry, scored 7 touchdowns. So I don't think he's going to have any problem toting the rock. And then when you talk about receivers, they get back Squirrel White, they get back Brew McCoy, they get back Dante Thornton. They get a lot of key pass catchers from that team a season ago, in addition to bringing in some transfers too. So, Nico's going to have a complement of weapons around him that, again, if he is as good as advertised or almost as good as advertised, this offense should be clicking like it was 2 years ago.
And they should be an interesting football team. We'll see what happens, but, Josh Heupel has done what I didn't think Josh Heupel would do. I'm not going to lie to you. When Josh Heupel, was hired, I'm like, okay. He took over for Scott Frost in Central Florida, and it seemed like they were losing steam every year Heupel was there because Frost handed him a really nice program. Remember, they won a national title and had a parade in their mind.
I was going to say, it almost kind of seemed like the Tennessee had become a program post Philip Fulmer that just couldn't get out of its own way, whether it be making the wrong hire, whether it be institutional problems. You go from Derek Dooley, the one Lane Kiffin year, you had Jeremy Pruitt and the disaster that was. They just couldn't seem to get anything right. So when you hire Josh Heupel, he'd done some impressive things down at Central Florida, but a lot of us looked at it and said, well, what makes us think this guy's going to be any different? And again, he went out there and surprised a lot of people in 2022. Last year was a little bit of a step back, but he still kept that team in that upper echelon of the SEC. And again, if everything goes the way we expect it to, Tennessee should once again be in that conversation as one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, so Heupel at the podium. Let's fire up another Josh Heupel real fast. Let's get with harder making progress the closer you get to the top, which I think was an interesting question going to what you just brought up. 2 years ago, Tennessee kind of popped up out of nowhere, was a contender for the college football playoff till they showed up at Williams-Brice and got their head handed to them. Last year, they were, again, a trendy pick because everybody fell in love with the fact that Joe Milton could throw the ball out of the stadium, which he could, especially when he was trying to throw it 5 yards. So this idea that Tennessee is bubbling right around level 1 in college football, here's Josh Heupel talking about that.
Yeah, if I said miles, I'm not sure that miles might have been right. Certainly maybe feet or yards. I'm really proud of a lot of what we did last year. Us, finishing New Year's Day Bowl, a win, the 20 wins over the last 2 years, most of it Tennessee's had in the last 2 decades. At the same time, that's obviously not the standard for where we want to get to. But proud of the steps that we took. We had some setbacks on some Saturdays, but that's why you get up, line up, and go compete every single day to go be your best. And this group's been fantastic. I'm really excited about the future of who and what we're going to be. When I took this job 3 years ago, everybody can go back and kind of research, what we were embarked on as far as challenges and how we had to navigate those. And we're at the point now where we're almost free and clear of navigating all of those things. Our roster is, the deepest that it's been by far. And inside of this league, that's important as you go through the season. I couldn't be more excited about going and lining up with this group this fall.
Yeah. Is Tennessee bubbling toward the top of college football? I don't know about that. But
Probably
they have a really good year.
I don't know if they'd say towards the top of college football, and I talked about this with Chris earlier. We were trying to figure out who the top 5 teams in the SEC were going to be at the media poll at the end of the week. And I said, you can make a solid argument for Tennessee to maybe be that 5th team. You could also maybe say they're the 7th or 8th best team. Like they're kind of floating right around that top tier of the SEC right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you go by that conversation you guys are having, obviously you're looking at, a Georgia and, an Alabama, an Ole Miss. People think Missouri is, right there on the cusp of being back again because they have so many returning starters and some obvious talent. I mean, Tennessee, yeah, you can look at that in that 5 hole, absolutely. Or if the quarterback isn't as good as everyone believes, then you see more of a kind of what happened last year. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the dangerous part about putting so many of your chips on an unproven quarterback at the college level, that if it goes sideways, if we go out there 3 weeks into the season and this guy can't hit the broadside of the barn with the football and he's fumbling left and right, then it's like, okay, what other options do you have? And that's where Tennessee can get in a lot of trouble. But again, if Nico lives up to the hype, this could be a really solid program. I don't know if I'd pencil them in to be in Atlanta by any means, but they could make some noise for the college football playoff for sure.
We are hanging out 2024 SEC Media Days, Radio Row in Dallas. The important thing, Tyler, is Langston is here, and he brought barbecue.
Well, I'm expecting him to mail me some. There's
a UPS store here at the Omni. We're going to UPS you some barbecue.
Get one of those the styrofoam things they send the steaks in. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say they mail food all the time now.
Exactly.
Everybody mails food, so we could mail you some barbecue. Isn't that food? I mean, they cook it and then they kind of seal it in a certain way and then they mail it. So
yeah, it makes it easier to cook.
All right, we are sponsored. We appreciate our sponsors getting us through 2024 SEC Media Days here in Dallas. Sponsored by Forest Lake Travel, the official travel agent of the Game Network, whether it's a family vacation or maybe a Gamecock road trip to a road game. Forest Lake Travel will hook you up at 803-738-1520. Mr. P's Pool and Pool Supplies. Expert Pool Services in Dillon and Florence. Your go-to source for above-ground pools as well, 843-841-0900. We'll come back. We got Brent Venables coming up top of the hour from the podium. We'll hear what the Oklahoma coach has to say live from the 2024 SEC Media Days in Dallas. It's a halftime show on the Game. Also, we appreciate all of our sponsors like TEC Equipment Rental, your local Takeuchi dealer. Check them out online, www.tecrental.com. Halftime show. Terry Ford hanging here, 2024 SEC Media Days, Radio Row in Dallas at the Omni. Langston did not bring barbecue, Tyler. He brought brisket tacos.
Well, that's just good.
This is good. Hey, look, I'm not thumbing my nose, man. I'm good. I'm in.
I was gonna say, go take your anger out on the former NFL defensive lineman. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, yeah. I'm probably gonna lose. just gonna guess I'm probably gonna lose. But we appreciate Langston bringing it. He's our Dallas correspondent.
Oh, he's the man on the street.
So, yep. I mean, he's on with us yesterday. He'll be popping on again today. But it's like, Langston, don't worry about coming in the morning. Just worry about grabbing us something to eat. We're
exactly.
Good. So Langston Moore, our buddy, bringing in some brisket tacos today. Barbecues tomorrow. So we're set. We are set. We've been kind of getting you some sound this hour. We were guest heavy in the first hour of the show with David Cloninger from the Post and Courier, and also Cale Gundy, a former Oklahoma quarterback and part of the Sooner coaching staff, who now is a midday host on the Sports Animal in Oklahoma City. Just, getting the vibe of Oklahoma coming in. Also, David Cloninger giving his thoughts about South Carolina yesterday, because it was, Gamecock Day here at SEC Media Days, along with LSU and Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. This afternoon, we'll see Eli Drinkwitz and Brent Venables hit the podium. And we're going to give you a little Brent Venables top of the hour. A little taste of the Oklahoma head coach, his first time addressing the media here at SEC Media Days as Oklahoma and Texas come in. And, going back to yesterday with South Carolina and the messaging from the players, I thought David Cloninger, had interesting take on it. And look, it's nothing personal, but just if you look at, you have a football team that's got a lot of questions on the offensive side of the ball. Your defense has a lot of people coming back, plus you've added depth to it. So you feel like the defense is going to be good, but you just don't know what's going to happen with the offense at this point.
Sure.
And if you look at the rest of the SEC, you can see why South Carolina might be picked, 11th, 12th, whatever. And Shane said that yesterday. He goes, I know you all going to pick us about 12th. That's
right.
Fine. We're okay with that. We don't believe that we're the 12th best team in the SEC, and we'll show you. So, and it's just one of those things where coming into this year is different than coming into last year at SEC Media Days, with the team was picked third in the SEC East. There's so much momentum off of the trip to the Gator Bowl. Spencer Rattler was back. A lot of folks kind of looked at, okay, here comes South Carolina, because in year two, Shane and his staff and that team won 8 games. But we saw the lack of depth up front. And when the injuries were happening, we saw the result. Now, I'll say this, Tyler. It's talking season, right?
Sure.
That's what it is. And Shane and the crew should have came in with that mindset of, look, we're not a 5-7 team. We're here to compete for championships. We're here to win. We're not here to be mediocre. That's what you should be saying.
Of course.
Now, how much, I'll say this, it feels like everyone that we've talked to and we heard here today, 5-7 made people angry.
Sure.
And you want that as a fan of the South Carolina football team. You want your team and your coaching staff to be angry.
Yeah, totally.
And it felt like, Shane and that crew were like, oh, we get to work now. We just lost to Clemson. Let's get to work now.
Well, and I think it also, like you said, where they kind of understand where their position is. And again, looking at this from a perspective of national media or media around the SEC, not a whole lot of people pay attention to South Carolina. So if they come into SEC Media Days pounding their chest about disrespecting, and we're going to be this, or we're going to be that, does anybody care as much? Probably not. So I think they're understanding their place, saying, you know what, we're not going to get a lot of attention. That's fine. We're going to go out there. We're going to prove it on the field. And if at the end of the year, if we're 8-4 or 9-3, then people say, man, didn't see that out of South Carolina. But they're kind of going about it in trying to fly under the radar in a way.
Yeah, well, that was what happened the year before, right? You're flying under the radar. No one going into 2 seasons ago, nobody was picking you to win 8 games.
Sure.
Again, what was it? 5.5 was the over/under or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you have a great run at the end of the year. You beat 2 top 10 teams. You go and you play in the Gator Bowl. And now you have momentum. Now, and remember Shane did his little Soldier Boy video and all that stuff is going on. And it felt like, even I think Shane said it when he was at the podium, we were kind of like a trendy pick going into last year's SEC Media Days. People were picking us maybe a dark horse in the SEC. So look, you feel like your program's going the right direction, right?
Yep.
You feel like everything's going well. You feel like, hey, I didn't need no stinking rebuilding year. We're good. And then all hell broke loose.
Right.
All the injuries, you go 5-7, and now you're looked at totally different this year coming in. Sometimes maybe you like it better being the hunter. Just saying. We're going to find out what Langston Moore thinks coming back, and we're going to get the menu for today. And we're going to get some Brent Venables top of the hour. Live from the SEC Media Days 2024 Radio Row in Dallas at the Omni. Terry Ford, halftime show. Tyler Heads here. Everybody else is gone. They're eating brisket tacos, which are phenomenal. Oh, my God. Thanks, everybody. Langston Moore for bringing that. We'll get Langston on here in a little bit, get some thoughts from him about South Carolina yesterday here at SEC Media Days. And just, we got Oklahoma on the podium today, Tennessee, Georgia, and also Missouri. And speaking of on the podium, Brent Venables, head coach, Oklahoma Sooners, talking with the media at SEC Media Days. Let's get a little taste of that right now, fellas.
Person help.
Okay. That's Brent Venables at 2024 SEC Media Day. Full taste of Brent up there on the podium. And I like and look, it's a legit question. Right? You guys ready for the SEC? It ain't the Big 12. No offense. Big 12 is a good, solid league, but it's not the SEC. And, your answer obviously has got to be, hey, we're going for it because we have been a great program for, 70 years. I mean, what are you going to say? Well, no, SEC's pretty tough. No, we had Kill Gundy on, former Sooner quarterback and former member of the Sooner coaching staff in the opening of the show. And Kill was like, there are a percentage of folks in Norman, Oklahoma that are like excited, but also, a little cautious about going into the SEC about it. This isn't the Big 12, the Big 8, or whatever. This is the best league in college football, and are we ready? I think part of that, to be honest, and there's nothing against Brent Venables. He might end up being a great head coach. They've had a ton of great head coaches in Oklahoma. But I think there is maybe an uneasiness about Venables, even though last year they won 10 games. Because the year before, remember, they went 6-7. So maybe the idea that Venables, hasn't gone to the college football playoff yet, or, something or competed consistently year in and year out to be in the college football playoff. Maybe that's part of this unknown that the Oklahoma Sooner fan base is feeling because they have an unknown about Venables still going into year 3. All right. So we are here at 2024 SEC Media Days in Dallas. We'll see what our buddy Langston Moore's up to next as we keep cooking. We're going to finish up top of the hour, then Jay and Elijah in the postgame show will hop in. We are here all week long, 2024 SEC Media Days, sponsored by Lawyer Lisa, offering estate planning, elder care, and probate. They spend their days and nights worrying about your future, so you don't have to. Just go online, lawyerlisa.com. Also, Stigler Cart Sales, providing top-notch golf cart sales in service for over 20 years. 843-621-5016 is the number to give them. And we'll come back. We'll yap with Langston about brisket tacos and football team on the halftime show. Live from Radio Row at the Omni in Dallas, 2024 SEC Media Days here on the game.